Your mind is constantly shaping your life, whether you notice it or not. Every decision you make, every habit you follow, and every outcome you experience begins with a single thought. Most people underestimate the power of their thinking and allow distractions, doubts, or fear to guide their days. This audiobook will show you how to take control of your mind, focus your energy, and transform your thoughts into real results. You will learn practical steps to manage negative thinking, set clear goals, build daily mental habits, and strengthen your belief in yourself. You will discover how to stay calm during stress, recognize opportunities in challenges, and turn deliberate thinking into consistent action. By applying these strategies, you can create a mindset that produces tangible results and supports lifelong growth. Every chapter provides simple, actionable guidance you can start using today to improve your life. This is not theory or vague advice, it is a hands-on, practical approach to self-improvement. By the end of this audiobook, you will have a clear roadmap for transforming your thoughts into meaningful results, giving you the tools to take control of your life and build the discipline, focus, and confidence needed to achieve long-term success. Get ready to understand the untold truth about how your mind works and begin applying it in ways that will change your life every single day. Chapter 14. Understand how thoughts shape your daily choices and results. Thoughts shape choices and choices shape results. This sentence is simple and direct because the idea it contains must be simple to use. The moment a thought appears, you are presented with an opportunity. That opportunity is to accept the thought and act on it, or to examine the thought and choose a different path. Most people treat thoughts as automatic facts and then follow them without inspection. That is the gap between ordinary days and intentional change. Understanding how thoughts shape daily choices and results begins with seeing thoughts as events inside your mind that you can notice, control, and redirect. This view is practical and it gives you work to do. It changes what you practice each morning and each night. It changes the small decisions that add up into a life. It also builds resilience because it places responsibility where it belongs, inside your control, while freeing you from the illusion that everything outside you must change first. Begin with a simple experiment that can be completed without equipment. For 7 days, write down the first 3 recurring thoughts you notice after waking and the last 3 recurring thoughts before sleep. Do this without judging the thoughts and without trying to change them. Use a small notebook or your phone. Recording these thoughts creates a map of what your mind repeats. These repeated thoughts are the engine of daily choices. If the morning thoughts are anxious and the evening thoughts are full of regret, then the day will tend to follow those directions. The first practical rule is to make private observation the habit that precedes change. Observation alone will not change everything, but it will reveal what you must work on. When a pattern is clear, you can design a targeted practice. After mapping your thinking, apply a simple Stoic test. Ask this question for each repeated thought: is this thought within my control or outside my control? If the thought is about weather, traffic, or other people, then it is outside your control. If the thought is about how you respond, your effort, or your immediate choice, then it is inside your control. This test is not meant to dismiss legitimate concerns. It is meant to allocate energy to what can be changed. You gain power by spending less time rehearsing what cannot be changed and more time rehearsing wise responses to what you can influence. For example, if you worry about a meeting that is tomorrow, you can control the preparation you do today. Prepare and then practice a calm, steady thought, such as "I will bring clarity and focus to this meeting." That reframed thought becomes a direct instruction to your behavior. Training your mind to do this is the most practical application of the Stoic approach. Build an immediate pause habit. When a strong thought arrives, practice a single breath pause. Count to 3 as you breathe in, then breathe out and name the thought in one clear word. For example, say quietly to yourself, "worry, doubt, angry, tired," or "plan." Naming the thought reduces its automatic pull. This is a cognitive distancing technique. It interrupts autopilot and creates a tiny space in which you can choose. In that space, ask 2 short questions: is this thought true, and is it useful? If the thought is neither true nor useful, you let it go. If it is true and useful, you act on it with a small specific step. If it is true but emotionally charged, you take a small action to regulate your nervous system, such as slow breathing or standing up. The pause habit forms the first line of mental discipline. Practice it until naming a thought becomes as automatic as reaching for a phone. Language matters. The words you use to describe your situation steer your choices. Replace vague, emotionally loaded sentences with precise action phrases. Replace "I am overwhelmed" with "Today I will complete one important task." Replace "I always fail" with "I will try one small experiment and record the result." Use language that points to behavior and evidence. This shift in language converts vague identity beliefs into testable behaviors. It also reduces rumination because an action-oriented sentence says what you will do now rather than replaying a bad scene in your head. Create a thought record method that fits your life. A thought record is a short, structured note that captures the triggering situation, the automatic thought, the emotion, the evidence for and against the thought, and a balanced alternative thought. Keep it to a single page and fill it out when a thought repeatedly affects your behavior. For example, situation you received, critical feedback, automatic thought, I am incompetent, emotion, shame, evidence for some tasks were late, evidence against most work is on time, balance thought, I had a setback, but I can improve by asking for specifics and practicing for 2 focused hours each day this week. The goal is not to argue with yourself endlessly. The goal is to collect evidence and form a plan. That plan becomes the next set of choices. Habits turn repeated thoughts into automatic responses. To reshape habits, use tiny actions and habit stacking. Pick one thought you want to change and choose a tiny action that follows immediately after a reliable cue. For example, if your mind drifts into negative self-talk, each time you check social media, decide to close the app after 3 minutes and write one sentence about what you learned. The cue is opening the app, the tiny action is closing it after 3 minutes. The reward is a tangible record of learning. Repeat this tiny action for 21 consecutive days. Small, consistent actions create new neural pathways. This is practical brain training, not mystical wishful thinking. Set daily intentions each morning with a 3-line practice. Sit for 2 minutes, breathe 3 deep breaths, then state out loud one value you will honor, one behavior you will practice, and one outcome you will accept. For example, honesty, speak clearly, finish the draft by 4 p.m., accept that not everyone will approve. Say them plainly and then attach a simple behavior to each. Honor honesty by checking your tone before sending messages. Practice speaking clearly by reading one paragraph aloud, and accepting others will disagree by scheduling a break after receiving feedback. This practice aligns thought, language, and action. The mind prefers specific instructions. A clear intention becomes a mental blueprint for the day. Use pre-commitments to direct thought into action. Pre-commitment is telling your future self what you will do and making the choice harder to reverse. Examples include scheduling a 45-minute block on your calendar, labeling it work and turning off notifications, or putting your phone in another room during focused work. Other pre-commitments are public, like telling a friend you will run 3 times this week, or private, like placing a visible note on your desk that reads "Finish, not perfect." Pre-commitments shorten the distance between thought and action because they create external constraints that your mind must navigate. The mind will prefer the path of least resistance. Pre-commit so resistance leads to the desired behavior. Practice a friction reduction method for positive habits and a friction increase method for negative ones. To adopt a helpful thought routine, remove obstacles for that habit and add obstacles for the unhelpful one. If you want to read more, remove the phone from your bedroom and place a book on your pillow. If you want to stop snacking late at night, keep snacks out of easy reach and place water on the counter instead. These small environmental changes influence the choices your thoughts produce. They do not remove responsibility, but they make the right decisions easier. Develop a short daily review to measure how your thoughts affected your results. At the end of each day, take 5 minutes and answer 3 questions. What thought led to my best choice today? What thought led to my worst choice today? And what one small change will I make tomorrow? Write the answers in a notebook. This review trains your attention to the cause-effect relationship between thinking and outcome. Over time, you will build a habit of rapid correction. The practice is practical because it asks for one small change, not a complete reinvention. Learn to test long-standing beliefs with experiments. Beliefs can be unexamined rules that determine your choices. Design simple, low-cost experiments to test them. If you believe you are bad at public speaking, then experiment by giving a 2-minute talk to a trusted friend and recording feedback. If you believe you cannot save money, start by saving a small fixed amount for 30 days and track it. The experiments will produce evidence that either refines or replaces the belief. Replace absolute words such as always, never, or impossible with measurable timelines and actions. A belief that is framed as an experiment is easier to change because it invites data rather than shame. Use the environment of commitment to reinforce new thoughts. The people you spend time with, the media you consume, and the places you frequent shape your thinking. Choose at least one environmental change this week. It could be unsubscribing from one draining social account, setting a daily news time limit, or spending 15 minutes each day reading something that teaches a skill. Choose the change and attach it to a specific cue. For example, after lunch, read for 15 minutes. Environmental design is practical because it sets default options that support your intentions. When stress or uncertainty arrives, use a concise resilience formula. First, acknowledge the thought or feeling without embellishment. Name it with one word. Second, identify what is within your control in the situation, even if that control is only your breathing. Third, choose one small action that moves you forward. This could be a 5-deep breath reset, 3 minutes of focused work, or a brief message to clarify expectations. Fourth, record the result and adjust. This sequence transforms chaotic thinking into a sequence of manageable steps. It also trains the mind to respond rather than react. Practice negative visualization in a disciplined way to reduce fear and clarify priorities. This is not about catastrophizing. It is about asking what would change if certain outcomes occurred and how to prepare. Spend 10 minutes once a week imagining a reasonable setback, such as a project delay or a missed goal, then list 3 practical steps to mitigate the impact. This exercise uncovers vulnerabilities and prepares your mind to respond calmly. It also reduces the drama that unexamined fear creates. Design affirmations that are specific, evidence-based, and actionable. Replace vague phrases such as "I am successful" with evidence-anchored statements such as "I will write for 30 minutes 5 days this week and submit 1 piece of work by Friday." The affirmation is effective because it points to behavior and evidence. Say it in the morning, then complete the small step immediately. Repetition plus action makes the statement credible to you. Avoid declarations that are disconnected from behavior because they increase dissonance rather than motivation. Use focused visualization sparingly and precisely. Picture specific behaviors, not vague outcomes. Instead of imagining a $1 million bank account, imagine the concrete steps that would create value, such as contacting 5 potential clients, drafting 2 proposals, and improving a single skill. See yourself performing the task and the sensory details around it. Visualize the rhythm, the sounds, and the actions. Then perform the first physical step. Visualization without action is entertainment. Visualization that primes a simple, immediate action is preparation. Build a check-in script for critical moments. Prepare 1 sentence to say to yourself when a strong thought threatens to derail your goals. Example script: I notice this is a thought about X. I will respond with 1 step that serves my goals, and then do the step. Practice the line and make the step tiny enough to do within 2 minutes. Scripts shorten decision time and reduce the load of willpower. They turn thought into a clear habit. Create a daily micro-goal system to translate thought into action. Each morning, list 3 micro-goals that are measurable and achievable within the day. Micro-goals are the bridge between intention and outcome. For example, complete an outline, call 1 person, read 10 pages. When a thought arises that tempts avoidance, revisit the micro-goal and choose the smallest next step to move toward completion. Reward the completion by marking it in a notebook. The visible tally of small wins trains your brain to prefer action over rumination. Train attention with a single attention-strengthening exercise. Sit for 3 minutes and count your breaths up to 5 and then repeat. Each time the mind wanders, name the distraction and return to counting. Increase the time by 1 minute each week. This practice strengthens the neural circuits that support focused thought. Strong attention reduces the frequency of reactive thoughts and increases the quality of choices. Use social accountability to convert thought into results. Share one goal and one daily micro-action with someone who will ask for progress. The social ask creates a gentle external pressure that often produces behavior. Choose someone who will be direct and supportive, not someone who soothes avoidance. Weekly check-ins are enough. Social accountability is practical because it leverages natural human response to expectations. Track small wins and failures with data, not drama. Replace stories of blame with records of metrics. If the goal is to improve sleep, then track lights out time, total sleep time, and quality for 30 days. If the goal is to write, then track words written, time spent, and submission attempts. Data reduces emotional volatility and makes results visible. Record where thoughts predicted failure and where they predicted success. This feedback shortens the learning cycle. When negative patterns persist, practice cognitive exposure. Instead of avoiding a thought, face it in controlled steps and document responses. If fear of judgment prevents you from posting work, then post a short piece to a small friendly group and record the feedback and your emotional response. Repeated controlled exposure weakens the power of the thought over time. This is not reckless exposure, it is graduated testing. Adopt a weekly planning ritual that aligns values, actions, and outcomes. Spend 30 minutes each Sunday reviewing the last week, identifying one lesson, and setting 3 intentions for the week. Each intention should have a clear action and a timeline. This ritual structures your thinking and reduces reactive choices during the week. It also creates a rhythm where thought precedes action by design. Be precise about the cost of inaction. When a tempting thought appears, imagine the real cost in time, energy, and missed opportunities if you follow that thought. Do not dramatize this, imagine it in minutes and dollars and relationships. For example, a thought to avoid a conversation might save an hour of discomfort now but prolong a problem for months. Converting choices into measurable costs makes the stakes clear and often moves you toward decisive action. When progress stalls, return to the smallest possible step. The smallest step resets your momentum and reduces internal resistance. If the thought that blocks action is perfectionism, commit to a 5-minute draft. If the thought is that you do not know enough, commit to reading one short article. Small steps build evidence and weaken catastrophic thinking. Teach yourself to argue like an investigator, not a prosecutor. When internal criticism arises, ask what evidence supports this criticism and what evidence contradicts it. Investigative questions are curious and open. Prosecutorial questions are aggressive and final. Curiosity invites action because it seeks improvement, while prosecution invites paralysis. Practice gratitude with precision. Each evening write one thing you improved and one specific person who helped you, and then plan one small way to return value. This version of gratitude focuses thought on relationships, actions, and reciprocal contributions rather than vague thankfulness. It strengthens social bonds and orients thought toward agency. Finally, build a 30-day transformation plan that puts these elements into practice in a manageable sequence. Week 1, focus on observation and pause habit. Record morning and evening thoughts. Practice the 3-breath pause and name 30 recurring thoughts. Week 2, introduce language and thought records. Replace 3 unhelpful automatic thoughts with behavior-oriented statements and perform the tiny actions attached to them. Week 3, design environmental changes and pre-commitments. Remove 2 sources of friction, add 2 supportive cues, and practice the micro-goal system daily. Week 4, run experiments and expose yourself gradually to one avoided activity. Track results and refine. Each week, keep the daily 5-minute review and the evening gratitude practice. At the end of 30 days, review the map of thoughts and choices and measure practical results, such as tasks completed, conversations had, and minutes spent on focused work. This approach is not about controlling every passing thought. It is about training attention, shaping language, and building simple habits that align thinking with action. When thoughts are noticed, named, tested, and attached to small behaviors, they lose their power to direct your life unconsciously. When thought becomes the first practical step toward a specific action, your days change. This method is steady and repeatable, and it respects human limits. Progress is measured in consistent small wins and in the gradual reduction of reactive patterns. Begin today with one small test. Pick a single recurring unhelpful thought and assign one tiny action to it. Practice the pause, name the thought, and complete the action within 2 minutes. Do this each time the thought appears for 3 days and record the result. This is the simplest way to turn thought into a controlled experiment and to begin shifting the choices that determine results. Over time, the accumulation of these tiny experiments becomes visible change. This is how resilience is built, how discipline is forged, and how the practical truth behind the title becomes real in daily life. Chapter 20. Take control of negative thinking and replace it. Negative thinking often feels automatic. It appears quickly and speaks with confidence. Many people accept these thoughts as truth without examination. When this happens, the mind begins to guide behavior in a direction that weakens confidence and drains energy. The result is hesitation, reduced effort, and missed opportunities. Understanding this process is the first step toward taking control. Negative thoughts are not commands. They are mental events that can be examined, corrected, and replaced with thoughts that support calm action and steady progress. A person who learns to manage negative thinking does not pretend that problems do not exist. Real challenges appear in work, relationships, health, and finances. The difference lies in how the mind responds to those situations. Negative thinking exaggerates threats and ignores possibilities. It focuses on past mistakes and predicts future failure. Productive thinking focuses on effort, learning, and clear next steps. The goal is not blind optimism. The goal is disciplined thinking that directs energy toward solutions instead of worry. Begin by recognizing the most common forms of negative thinking. One pattern is assuming the worst outcome before any evidence appears. Another pattern is believing that one mistake defines personal ability. A third pattern is focusing only on what went wrong while ignoring progress or improvement. When these patterns repeat, they become habits. A habit of thought will shape behavior in subtle ways. A person who constantly predicts failure may avoid effort entirely. A person who believes improvement is possible will keep practicing even after setbacks. The first practical skill is awareness. Negative thinking thrives when it goes unnoticed. Take a few minutes during the day to observe what the mind is saying. Notice the tone of your internal voice when something goes wrong. Observe the language that appears after a mistake. Many people discover that their thoughts contain harsh criticism that they would never direct toward another person. Seeing this clearly creates the opportunity to intervene. Once a negative thought is recognized, pause for a moment and slow down the reaction. A simple pause interrupts the chain between thought and action. Breathe slowly and allow the emotion to settle. During this pause, ask one honest question. Is this thought helping me move forward? This question creates distance between the observer and the thought itself. A thought that blocks progress does not deserve authority over your decisions. After identifying an unhelpful thought, replace it with a statement that directs action. Replacement thinking must be realistic and grounded in effort. Consider the difference between two responses after a difficult task. One response says, "I failed and I cannot improve." Another response says, "This attempt did not work, but I can study what went wrong and try again." The second statement encourages investigation and action. It turns a moment of frustration into an opportunity for learning. Practice writing down negative thoughts and then constructing better alternatives. This simple exercise builds mental discipline. For example, imagine receiving criticism from a supervisor. The first reaction might be the belief that you are not capable. Instead of accepting that judgment, write a more balanced response. The feedback shows that improvement is needed in a specific area, and improvement is possible through effort. Writing these statements trains the brain to search for practical responses rather than emotional conclusions. Another helpful practice is limiting the time spent replaying past mistakes. Reflection has value when it leads to improvement. Endless replay of the same event produces only frustration. Set a boundary for reflection. Spend a few minutes identifying what went wrong and what can be done differently next time. Once that lesson is clear, shift attention toward the next task. Energy directed toward action produces growth. Energy trapped in regret produces stagnation. The environment also influences thinking patterns. Information that surrounds you throughout the day shapes your mental atmosphere. Constant exposure to discouraging messages can strengthen negative beliefs. Choose sources of information carefully. Read material that teaches practical skills. Listen to voices that encourage responsibility and effort. Spend time with individuals who value growth and discipline. These influences help build a mental climate that supports constructive thinking. Physical habits also affect the quality of thoughts. The body and mind operate together. Lack of sleep, poor nutrition, and constant fatigue make negative thinking stronger. Simple physical care supports mental clarity. Regular movement, balanced meals, and consistent rest strengthen the ability to respond calmly during stressful moments. A strong body often supports a stronger mind. Negative thinking frequently grows during uncertainty. When the future is unclear, the mind may create fearful predictions. A disciplined response is to focus on the present action that can be completed now. Break large concerns into smaller tasks. A project that seems overwhelming becomes manageable when divided into steps that can be completed one by one. Each completed step weakens the grip of negative thoughts because progress becomes visible. Another powerful method for replacing negative thinking is gratitude for effort rather than outcome. Many people judge themselves only by final results. This approach creates pressure and disappointment when success does not appear immediately. Instead, acknowledge consistent effort. Recognize the courage required to continue working toward improvement. Appreciation for effort encourages persistence and reduces the fear of failure. Visualization can also assist in redirecting thoughts. Spend a few minutes imagining yourself responding calmly to a difficult situation. Picture the actions you will take and the tone of your voice when addressing the challenge. This practice prepares the mind for real events. When the moment arrives, the brain recognizes the pattern and follows the prepared response rather than falling into panic. Consistency is essential. Negative thinking patterns may have developed over many years. Replacing them requires steady practice. Each time you interrupt a negative thought and replace it with a constructive response, you strengthen a new pathway in the mind. The change may appear gradual at first. Over time, the difference becomes clear. Situations that once created fear begin to produce thoughtful action. Self-discipline plays a central role in this transformation. Discipline means guiding attention toward what is useful rather than what is comfortable. It requires patience and persistence. Some days the mind may drift back into familiar negative patterns. Instead of becoming discouraged, treat that moment as another opportunity to practice control. Every correction strengthens the habit of constructive thinking. Encourage yourself with evidence of progress. Keep a simple record of moments when you successfully redirected a negative thought. Notice how these corrections influence behavior and outcomes. Small victories build confidence. Confidence then reinforces the belief that change is possible. Relationships also benefit from this shift in thinking. Negative thoughts often create misunderstandings and unnecessary tension. A person who learns to pause and examine their thoughts responds more calmly during disagreements. Instead of reacting with anger, they seek clarity and resolution. This approach strengthens trust and encourages respectful communication. The ability to replace negative thinking does not remove all challenges from life. Difficult moments will continue to appear. The difference is that you will face them with clarity rather than confusion. Your thoughts will support constructive action rather than sabotage your efforts. Imagine the long-term effect of this practice. Each day your mind becomes slightly more disciplined. Each decision becomes guided by thoughtful evaluation instead of automatic fear. Over months and years, these small changes accumulate. Opportunities become easier to recognize. Confidence grows through repeated proof that challenges can be handled. A person who masters their thinking gains a powerful advantage. External conditions will continue to change, but the internal response remains steady. Calm thinking creates better decisions. Better decisions produce better results. This process repeats until a new standard of behavior becomes natural. Begin with one simple commitment. Observe negative thoughts without immediate reaction. Pause and question their usefulness. Replace them with statements that guide productive effort. Repeat this practice every day. Through patience and steady discipline, the mind becomes an ally rather than an obstacle. When negative thinking loses control, the path toward growth becomes clearer. Actions become guided by intention and purpose. Each step forward strengthens the belief that improvement is always possible through thoughtful effort. The ability to control negative thinking is not a rare talent. It is a skill developed through awareness, discipline, and consistent practice. Those who cultivate this skill gain the freedom to direct their lives with clarity, strength, and determination. Chapter 3: Train your mind to focus on clear goals. A mind without a clear goal drifts from task to task without direction. Energy becomes scattered and effort loses its power. Many people work hard every day yet still feel that their progress is slow. The reason is not a lack of effort but a lack of focus. When the mind does not have a defined destination, it spends time reacting to distractions instead of moving steadily toward meaningful results. Training the mind to focus on clear goals changes the entire structure of daily life. Decisions become easier. Actions become purposeful. Time gains value because every effort moves toward something specific. Clear goals act as mental instructions. They guide attention and influence the choices that fill each day. Without them, the mind responds only to immediate pressures. Messages, notifications, minor problems, and passing moods begin to dictate behavior. Days pass while important work remains unfinished. When a goal is clearly defined, the mind starts filtering information differently. Opportunities related to the goal become easier to notice. Distractions lose their appeal because they do not support the direction that has been chosen. The first step in training the mind to focus on clear goals is defining what truly matters. Many people adopt goals based on expectations from others or social pressure. These borrowed ambitions rarely produce sustained motivation. A meaningful goal connects with personal values and long-term vision. Take quiet time to think about what improvement would make the greatest difference in your life. Consider areas such as knowledge, career, health, relationships, and character. Ask yourself which change would bring the greatest sense of progress and responsibility. The answer to that question becomes the foundation for a clear goal. Once the area of improvement is chosen, convert the intention into a specific objective. A goal must be clear enough that progress can be measured. For example, deciding to become better at writing is vague and difficult to track. A clearer goal would be writing 500 words each morning before beginning other work. This version removes uncertainty and creates a visible standard. Clarity allows the mind to recognize when the task has been completed. After defining the goal, break it into smaller steps that can be completed regularly. Large ambitions often feel overwhelming because the path toward them appears distant. Dividing the journey into smaller actions removes that pressure. Each completed step provides evidence that progress is happening. This evidence strengthens motivation and encourages continued effort. Progress becomes visible rather than abstract. The mind learns through repetition. Focusing on a goal requires daily reminders of the direction you have chosen. Write the goal in a place where it can be seen each morning. Read it slowly and imagine the effort required to achieve it. This practice keeps the objective active in your awareness. A written goal has greater influence than a vague intention that exists only in memory. Distractions are one of the greatest challenges to focus. Modern environments provide constant stimulation. Messages, advertisements, and entertainment compete for attention throughout the day. Training the mind to focus requires deliberate boundaries around these interruptions. Set specific times for checking messages and limit unnecessary browsing. Protect periods of quiet work where attention can remain on the chosen goal. Each uninterrupted block of effort strengthens concentration and produces visible results. Attention functions like a muscle that grows stronger through practice. Begin with manageable periods of focused effort. Choose a single task connected to your goal and work on it for a fixed amount of time without interruption. Even 20 minutes of concentrated work can create significant progress. Gradually increase the length of these sessions as your focus improves. Over time, your mind will become comfortable maintaining attention for longer periods. Visualizing progress can also strengthen commitment. Picture yourself completing the actions required by your goal. Imagine the environment around you and the steps you are taking to move forward. This mental rehearsal prepares the brain to follow the same pattern during real situations. Visualization works best when it focuses on behavior rather than distant rewards. See yourself performing the work with discipline and patience. A written plan adds structure to your effort. At the beginning of each week, list the tasks that will move you closer to your goal. These tasks should be realistic and achievable within the available time. A clear plan prevents confusion during busy days. When the mind knows exactly what needs to be done, it wastes less energy deciding where to begin. Tracking progress provides valuable feedback. Keep a simple record of the actions completed each day. This record does not need to be complicated. A notebook or digital note is enough. Write the date and the task completed. Over time, this record becomes proof of your dedication. Seeing a list of completed actions builds confidence and encourages continued focus. There will be moments when motivation feels low. During those times, discipline becomes more important than emotion. Return attention to the small step that can be completed immediately. A single action often restores momentum. Once work has begun, the mind usually regains clarity and interest. Waiting for perfect motivation often leads to delay. Beginning the task creates its own motivation. Clear goals also influence how challenges are interpreted. Difficulties become part of the process rather than signals of failure. When the destination is firmly established, obstacles are viewed as problems to solve. The mind searches for adjustments instead of excuses. This attitude strengthens resilience and keeps attention on progress. It is also important to review your goals periodically. Life circumstances change and new opportunities appear. A short review each month allows you to evaluate whether your actions remain aligned with your values. If adjustments are needed, make them calmly and continue forward. Flexibility ensures that your goals remain meaningful rather than rigid obligations. Focus is strengthened when progress benefits others. Consider how achieving your goal might improve the lives of people around you. This perspective adds purpose to your effort. Work becomes more than personal achievement. It becomes a contribution that creates value beyond yourself. A sense of service often deepens commitment and strengthens perseverance. Rest and reflection also support focused effort. Continuous activity without pause can weaken concentration. Schedule moments of quiet where the mind can recover from intense work. During these moments, review what has been accomplished and prepare for the next stage. Balanced effort prevents exhaustion and maintains clarity. The discipline of focusing on clear goals gradually transforms identity. A person who repeatedly directs attention toward meaningful objectives becomes known for reliability and purpose. Others notice the consistency of effort and the calm determination behind each action. Opportunities often follow this reputation because people trust individuals who demonstrate commitment. Every day offers a choice between distraction and direction. Distraction brings temporary entertainment but leaves little lasting progress. Direction requires effort, yet builds a future shaped by intentional decisions. Training the mind to focus on clear goals is the process of choosing direction again and again until it becomes natural. Progress does not require dramatic change. It grows through repeated small actions guided by a clear objective. Each focused session of work adds another step toward the destination. Over weeks and months, these steps form a path that leads to real transformation. The power of a focused mind lies in its ability to convert intention into consistent action. When thoughts remain aligned with a clear goal, effort becomes organized and purposeful. Time is used wisely. Energy moves in one direction rather than many. Results begin to appear not through sudden luck, but through steady, disciplined attention. Commit today to defining one goal that truly matters. Write it clearly. Break it into small steps. Protect time each day to work on those steps with full attention. Record your progress and review your efforts regularly. Through patience and persistence, the mind learns to stay focused on what is important. A focused mind is a powerful instrument for change. It transforms scattered energy into deliberate movement. It replaces confusion with clarity and hesitation with confident action. By training your thoughts to remain aligned with clear goals, you create a life guided by purpose, effort, and meaningful achievement. Chapter 4: Build daily mental habits that support growth. Growth rarely happens through one dramatic decision. Real development usually comes from quiet actions repeated every day. The mind responds strongly to routine. Thoughts that appear regularly begin to shape behavior automatically. Over time, these patterns become habits that influence how a person responds to challenges, opportunities, and responsibilities. When daily mental habits are careless, the mind drifts toward distraction, doubt, and confusion. When mental habits are designed with care, the mind begins to operate with clarity, patience, and steady determination. The quality of daily thinking becomes the foundation for long-term improvement. Every day begins with a short window of influence over the direction of your thoughts. The first minutes after waking carry unusual importance because the mind is still calm and open. Many people begin their day by checking messages or absorbing outside information. This habit immediately fills the mind with noise and urgency. A more constructive approach is to begin the day with a moment of quiet attention. Sit upright, breathe slowly, and notice the state of your mind before the world begins to demand your attention. This simple pause creates space for intentional thinking. During this quiet moment, remind yourself of the values that guide your behavior. Values act as internal principles that shape decisions, even when situations become difficult. Examples include honesty, discipline, patience, respect, and responsibility. When these values are consciously acknowledged at the start of the day, the mind becomes more alert to situations where they can be practiced. A person who begins the morning with a reminder of patience will respond differently to frustration later in the day. A person who remembers responsibility will approach work with greater seriousness. Another mental habit that supports growth is structured reflection. Reflection means reviewing your experiences in order to learn from them. Without reflection, mistakes repeat themselves and lessons are easily forgotten. Choose a specific time each evening to examine how the day unfolded. Ask yourself simple questions that reveal useful insight. Consider what decisions produced positive results and which actions created unnecessary difficulty. This process is not meant to produce guilt or criticism. It is meant to extract lessons that can guide tomorrow's behavior. Writing down these observations strengthens the effect. When thoughts are placed on paper, they become clearer and easier to evaluate. A short entry describing one success and one lesson from the day can provide powerful guidance over time. These notes gradually form a record of growth that demonstrates how discipline and learning shape personal progress. Mental habits also include the way attention is managed during work. The modern environment offers endless sources of distraction. Constant interruptions weaken the ability to concentrate and prevent deep thinking. Training the mind to protect periods of focused attention is essential for development. Choose blocks of time where only one task receives your full effort. Remove unnecessary interruptions and place your attention completely on the work before you. Even a short period of concentrated effort can produce meaningful progress when practiced consistently. Curiosity is another mental habit that encourages improvement. A curious mind asks questions rather than accepting confusion or frustration. When something does not work, curiosity leads you to investigate the reason. This attitude transforms obstacles into learning opportunities. Instead of reacting with discouragement, you begin searching for understanding. Each discovery strengthens skill and increases confidence. Gratitude can also be practiced as a daily mental discipline. Gratitude directs attention toward what is already valuable in life. Many people spend large amounts of time thinking about what they lack or what has gone wrong. This pattern gradually creates dissatisfaction and discouragement. A moment of gratitude shifts the focus toward resources, opportunities, and relationships that support progress. Recognizing these positive elements does not ignore difficulties. It simply restores balance and strengthens emotional stability. Another powerful mental habit is constructive self-dialogue. Every person speaks internally throughout the day. These internal conversations influence emotions and decisions. Harsh or discouraging language weakens motivation and creates tension. Calm and supportive language encourages resilience. When facing a challenge, speak to yourself with the same fairness and clarity that you would offer to a respected colleague. This approach maintains dignity and preserves the energy needed for improvement. Learning is also a habit that requires deliberate attention. Growth depends on continuous exposure to new ideas and skills. Set aside a portion of each day for study or thoughtful reading. The material chosen should expand understanding or develop practical ability. Even a short period of learning every day produces remarkable results over time. Knowledge gained today becomes a tool for solving problems tomorrow. Another habit that strengthens mental discipline is mindful observation of emotional reactions. Emotions provide useful signals, but they should not control behavior automatically. When a strong emotion appears, pause and observe it without immediate judgment. Notice how the body reacts and how the mind begins to form conclusions. This brief observation reduces impulsive decisions and allows reason to guide your response. Patience plays a critical role in personal development. Many people abandon their efforts because progress seems slow. Daily mental habits require time to produce visible results. Each repetition strengthens neural pathways that make disciplined thinking easier. Patience means continuing the practice, even when immediate rewards are not visible. Over weeks and months, the accumulated effect becomes undeniable. Consistency is the force that transforms small habits into lasting change. A single day of disciplined thinking has limited impact. Repeating the same constructive patterns every day gradually reshapes how the mind operates. Consistency creates familiarity. The mind begins to expect reflection, focus, learning, and calm response as normal parts of daily life. Physical movement can also support mental habits. Walking or light exercise often clears the mind and improves concentration. During movement, the brain processes information in a different way that can reveal new perspectives on challenges. Many people discover solutions to difficult problems during quiet physical activity because the mind is free from intense pressure. Another useful habit is preparing mentally for the next day before sleep. Spend a few moments reviewing the tasks that require attention tomorrow. Visualize the steps needed to approach them calmly and effectively. This preparation reduces anxiety and allows the mind to rest with a sense of direction. Building daily mental habits also involves protecting the quality of information entering your mind. Words, images, and conversations influence attitudes and beliefs. Choose sources of information that encourage responsibility and thoughtful action. Avoid excessive exposure to material that produces fear, anger, or distraction. A carefully selected environment supports the development of a disciplined mind. Relationships can strengthen mental habits as well. Spending time with individuals who value learning and improvement reinforces similar attitudes within yourself. Conversations with thoughtful people often generate ideas and perspectives that encourage growth. Shared commitment to improvement creates an environment where discipline becomes natural. As these habits develop, you may begin to notice subtle changes in your behavior. Decisions become calmer. Reactions become more thoughtful. Problems that once produced frustration now invite analysis and action. These improvements emerge gradually through daily practice. Every mental habit begins with a simple decision to act differently. The mind learns through repetition and attention. Each day presents another opportunity to practice reflection, curiosity, gratitude, focus, and calm self-dialogue. These habits require little time, yet produce significant influence over the direction of your life. A person who maintains strong mental habits becomes capable of steady progress regardless of external conditions. Challenges continue to appear, but they are approached with clarity and resilience. Growth becomes a natural result of daily discipline rather than a distant hope. Commit yourself to these small daily practices. Begin each morning with intention. End each evening with reflection. Protect time for learning and focused effort. Speak to yourself with fairness and patience. Over time, these habits transform ordinary days into a powerful process of continuous development. The mind becomes organized, purposeful, and prepared for greater responsibility. Through disciplined mental habits, the path of improvement becomes steady and reliable. Progress no longer depends on sudden bursts of motivation. It grows quietly from consistent, thoughtful action practiced every single day. Chapter 5. Strengthen belief in your ability to change life. Many people quietly carry the belief that their life cannot change in a meaningful way. This belief may come from past failures, difficult circumstances, or years of hearing discouraging voices. Over time, the mind accepts this message and begins to behave as if improvement is impossible. When this belief takes root, effort weakens, and opportunities are ignored because the mind assumes that nothing will be different. Strengthening belief in your ability to change life is therefore not a matter of empty encouragement. It is a disciplined process of proving to yourself through action that growth is possible. Belief is not created by wishing or repeating words without evidence. Real belief grows from experience. Each time you complete a task that once felt difficult, your mind records a small victory. These victories gradually replace doubt with confidence. This means the most reliable way to strengthen belief is through consistent effort in manageable steps. When a goal feels too large, the mind becomes discouraged before progress begins. Starting with smaller challenges allows success to appear sooner, and success strengthens belief. Consider how confidence develops in any skill. A person learning to play an instrument does not begin with complex performances. The first attempts involve simple movements and careful practice. Each correct note confirms that improvement is happening. Over time, the musician begins to trust their ability to learn. The same principle applies to personal change. When you complete small commitments, your mind gathers proof that effort produces results. One effective practice is to set a daily promise that can be honored without fail. This promise should require effort yet remain realistic. It might involve reading a few pages of a useful book, practicing a skill for 20 minutes, or completing a task that has been postponed. The importance lies not in the size of the action, but in the consistency of keeping your word to yourself. Each completed promise strengthens self-respect and reinforces the belief that your actions influence the direction of your life. Another important step is examining the stories you tell yourself about the past. Many people define their identity through old experiences. They repeat sentences such as "I have always struggled with discipline" or "I am not capable of leading others." These statements may feel accurate because they reflect previous outcomes. However, the past describes what has happened, not what must happen again. Treat past experiences as information rather than permanent labels. A mistake reveals what did not work. It does not determine your future ability to grow. Replacing limiting stories requires deliberate mental effort. When you notice a thought that claims you cannot improve, pause and question its certainty. Ask yourself whether there is clear evidence that change is impossible. In most cases, the honest answer will be no. Human beings possess remarkable capacity to learn, adapt, and overcome difficulty. History offers countless examples of individuals who transformed their lives through persistence and thoughtful action. Recognizing this possibility opens space for a new belief to develop. The environment surrounding you also affects confidence in change. Voices that constantly express doubt can weaken your determination. Seek conversations that encourage responsibility and learning. This does not mean avoiding honest feedback. Constructive criticism can be valuable when it points toward improvement. The difference lies in whether the message encourages growth or reinforces helplessness. Spend time with people who believe effort leads to progress. Learning new skills also strengthens belief in personal change. When the mind acquires knowledge, it recognizes that ability is not fixed. Each skill gained becomes evidence that improvement is real. Choose areas of study that support your goals and dedicate time to learning them carefully. Even gradual progress reminds you that development is always possible with patient effort. Physical action plays a powerful role in building belief. The body communicates messages to the mind through posture, movement, and effort. When you engage in disciplined physical activity, the experience of endurance and strength influences your internal attitude. Completing a demanding walk, finishing an exercise routine, or improving physical fitness sends a clear signal that you are capable of growth. These experiences create a sense of capability that spreads into other areas of life. Visualization can assist in reinforcing belief when it is practiced realistically. Picture yourself performing actions that represent improvement. Imagine approaching responsibilities with calm focus and steady effort. This exercise prepares the mind to recognize those behaviors as normal and achievable. Visualization becomes most effective when it is followed by real action that matches the image you created. Another valuable practice involves reviewing past achievements. Even individuals who doubt themselves have experienced moments of success. Perhaps you completed education, overcame a personal challenge, or helped someone during a difficult time. These experiences demonstrate resilience and capability. Reflecting on them reminds you that progress has already occurred in your life. That evidence forms the foundation for future confidence. Patience is essential when building belief. Doubt that has developed over many years rarely disappears quickly. Expect moments when uncertainty returns. During those moments, rely on your habits rather than waiting for perfect confidence. Continue completing the small promises you made to yourself. Action taken despite doubt often produces results that gradually weaken negative beliefs. Accountability also strengthens commitment to change. Sharing your goals with a trusted friend, mentor, or colleague creates an external reminder of your intention. When others are aware of your efforts, you become more likely to follow through. This shared responsibility can provide encouragement during moments when motivation fades. Celebrate progress with quiet recognition rather than excessive pride. Acknowledge when you complete a task that once seemed difficult. Allow yourself a moment of satisfaction before continuing forward. This balanced response reinforces the connection between effort and improvement while maintaining humility and focus. It is also useful to understand that setbacks are part of growth. Every person pursuing change encounters obstacles. The key difference lies in interpretation. A setback can be seen as evidence of failure or as information that guides the next attempt. Viewing challenges as lessons protects belief in your ability to improve. Gradually, your mind begins to notice a pattern. Effort produces learning. Learning leads to adjustment. Adjustment leads to better results. This cycle repeats until improvement becomes visible. With each repetition, belief grows stronger because it is supported by experience. As belief strengthens, your decisions begin to reflect greater confidence. Opportunities that once seemed intimidating become invitations for development. Challenges that previously created fear now appear as tests of discipline. Your actions begin to align with the understanding that your choices shape the direction of your life. The most important realization is that belief is built through consistent behavior. Words and encouragement may start the process, but sustained effort completes it. Each day you act with intention, you reinforce the idea that your life is not fixed. It is shaped gradually through decisions, effort, and learning. Commit to strengthening this belief by honoring the promises you make to yourself. Continue learning new skills and reflecting on the lessons provided by experience. Surround yourself with voices that encourage responsibility and perseverance. Maintain patience as the evidence of progress accumulates. Through steady action, your mind begins to accept a powerful truth. Change is not reserved for a fortunate few. It becomes possible for anyone who chooses discipline, persistence, and thoughtful effort. As this belief takes root, it transforms hesitation into determination. The future becomes something you actively shape rather than something you simply endure. Chapter 6: Direct your attention toward opportunities and solutions. Life constantly presents situations that demand a response. Some moments bring difficulty while others present possibility. The direction a person moves in often depends on where attention is placed. Attention is a powerful mental force because whatever the mind studies repeatedly begins to shape behavior. When attention stays fixed on obstacles, frustration grows and action becomes slow. When attention moves toward opportunities and solutions, the mind begins to search for useful paths forward. Learning to guide attention in this way is one of the most practical skills a person can develop. Many individuals spend large amounts of time analyzing problems without moving toward resolution. They replay events that went wrong and imagine how things could have been different. While reflection can provide lessons, excessive focus on the negative aspects of a situation drains energy and weakens initiative. Directing attention toward solutions does not ignore the existence of problems. Instead, it acknowledges the challenge and then shifts mental effort toward improvement. The first step in directing attention effectively is recognizing the moment when the mind becomes trapped in complaint. Complaining can feel satisfying for a short time because it releases frustration. However, it rarely produces progress. Notice how often conversations or internal thoughts repeat the same dissatisfaction without suggesting action. Awareness of this pattern is essential because it reveals when attention has drifted away from productive thinking. Once this pattern becomes visible, the next step is asking a constructive question. A useful question might be, what can be done to improve this situation, or what small action would move things forward? Questions like these guide the mind toward exploration rather than blame. The brain naturally searches for answers when presented with clear questions. By choosing the right question, you guide your thinking toward practical possibilities. Consider how this principle works in everyday situations. Imagine facing a delay at work that disrupts an important project. One response is to focus entirely on the inconvenience and the frustration it creates. Another response is to examine whether this delay creates an opportunity to strengthen another part of the project or prepare more thoroughly for the next stage. The situation remains the same, but the direction of attention changes the result. Training the mind to look for opportunity requires patience, because negative focus may have become habitual over many years. Habits develop through repetition, and they are replaced through new repetition. Begin by practicing the habit of identifying one useful aspect within a difficult situation. Even a small advantage can become the starting point for improvement. For example, a challenging conversation might reveal information that helps resolve a misunderstanding. A mistake might reveal a weakness that can now be corrected. Writing down potential solutions also helps direct attention effectively. When a challenge appears, take a moment to list several possible responses. These options do not need to be perfect. The goal is simply to expand thinking beyond the initial reaction. Once several possibilities are written, the mind begins to see the situation as manageable rather than overwhelming. Another important practice is studying examples of creative problem solving. Reading about individuals who faced complex challenges often reveals how they redirected their attention toward opportunity. These examples show that progress usually begins with curiosity and determination rather than immediate certainty. Observing how others approached problems strengthens confidence in your own ability to find solutions. Attention is closely connected to emotional state. When frustration becomes intense, the mind narrows its focus and overlooks useful information. Learning to calm the mind during stress helps restore clarity. Slow breathing or a brief pause before responding can reduce emotional pressure and allow rational thinking to return. Once calm is restored, the mind becomes capable of exploring possibilities again. Directing attention toward solutions also involves recognizing personal responsibility. While external conditions may influence events, the choices you make still matter. Accepting responsibility does not mean blaming yourself for every difficulty. It simply means acknowledging that your response can influence the outcome. This perspective empowers action rather than waiting for circumstances to change on their own. Curiosity strengthens the search for opportunity. A curious mind treats challenges as puzzles rather than threats. Instead of asking why something went wrong, curiosity asks how the situation can be improved. This approach encourages experimentation and learning. Each attempt provides information that guides the next decision. Another helpful method is focusing on what resources are already available. During stressful situations, the mind often concentrates on what is missing. It may overlook tools, knowledge, or support that could assist progress. Take a moment to list the resources currently within reach. These might include skills you already possess, helpful contacts, access to information, or time available for careful planning. Recognizing existing resources restores confidence and encourages action. Collaboration also expands the range of possible solutions. When several people contribute ideas, the number of perspectives increases. Conversations that focus on improvement rather than blame often reveal creative approaches that one person might not notice alone. Seek input from individuals who approach problems with calm reasoning and constructive thinking. Attention directed toward solutions often leads to gradual progress rather than immediate transformation. Each improvement builds momentum for the next. A small adjustment today may reveal a larger opportunity tomorrow. Recognizing this process prevents impatience and encourages steady effort. Another valuable habit is celebrating problem-solving efforts regardless of outcome. Even when a solution does not produce the expected result, the attempt itself strengthens learning. Acknowledging effort maintains motivation and encourages continued exploration. Over time, the experience gained through repeated attempts improves judgment and creativity. Directing attention toward opportunity also influences how you view uncertainty. Instead of interpreting uncertainty as danger, you begin to see it as a space where new possibilities may appear. Many meaningful achievements begin in uncertain conditions where outcomes are not guaranteed. Viewing uncertainty as an open field rather than a closed door encourages courage and initiative. A disciplined mind learns to return its focus to opportunity whenever distraction or discouragement appears. This does not happen automatically. It requires conscious redirection again and again. Each time attention is guided back toward useful thinking, the habit grows stronger. Daily practice strengthens this ability. At the end of the day, review one challenge that occurred and identify how attention was directed during that moment. Consider whether focusing on solutions produced a better outcome than focusing on frustration would have. This reflection builds awareness and improves future responses. Over time, the mind becomes trained to look for possibility almost automatically. Situations that once seemed discouraging begin to reveal hidden advantages. Problems become invitations to think creatively. Energy once spent on complaint becomes available for constructive work. The long-term impact of this mental discipline can be profound. Opportunities that once passed unnoticed begin to stand out clearly. Relationships improve because conversations emphasize improvement rather than criticism. Work becomes more effective because attention stays fixed on progress. Directing attention towards solutions does not guarantee that every effort will succeed immediately. However, it ensures that energy is invested in actions that create learning and movement. Each thoughtful response increases the chance of discovering a better path forward. A life guided by this mindset becomes more resilient and purposeful. Instead of feeling controlled by circumstances, you begin to participate actively in shaping outcomes. Every challenge becomes a chance to practice clarity, creativity, and responsibility. Commit to directing your attention with intention. When difficulty appears, acknowledge it honestly, and then guide your thinking toward useful action. Ask questions that open the door to improvement. Explore possibilities with patience and determination. Through this practice, your mind becomes a powerful instrument for recognizing opportunities and creating meaningful solutions. Chapter 70. Practice disciplined thinking during stress and uncertainty. Stress and uncertainty are unavoidable parts of life. Every person encounters moments when the future becomes unclear and the pressure of responsibility feels heavy. During these moments, the mind can easily become overwhelmed. Thoughts begin to move quickly and emotions can rise without warning. When thinking becomes chaotic, decisions often lose clarity. Actions taken during this state may create new problems instead of resolving the original challenge. Practicing disciplined thinking during stressful periods protects the mind from this confusion and allows steady judgment to guide behavior. A disciplined mind does not attempt to eliminate stress completely. Stress often appears when something important requires attention. The real skill lies in responding with calm structure instead of panic. When uncertainty arrives, the first task is to slow the pace of your thinking. Fast reactions usually come from fear rather than careful reasoning. Taking a brief pause before responding allows the mind to regain balance. A slow breath and a moment of stillness may seem simple, but this pause interrupts the chain reaction that often leads to impulsive choices. Once calm begins to return, direct your attention toward the facts of the situation. Stress often encourages imagination to create exaggerated scenarios about what might go wrong. These imagined outcomes rarely help solve the immediate problem. Instead, focus on what is known and observable in the present moment. Identify the details that can be confirmed. By separating facts from speculation, the mind becomes clearer and more capable of logical analysis. Another important step involves defining the real challenge within the situation. Under pressure, many different concerns may appear at the same time. This can make the problem seem larger than it actually is. Discipline requires narrowing your focus to the most important issue that must be addressed first. When the central challenge becomes clear, the mind can begin searching for practical responses. Breaking the situation into smaller components often reduces anxiety. A complicated problem may feel overwhelming when viewed as a single obstacle. Dividing it into manageable steps creates a sense of order. Each step can be examined calmly and approached with careful planning. Progress made on one small part of the challenge builds confidence for addressing the next part. Maintaining control of language during stress is another form of disciplined thinking. Words spoken internally or aloud influence emotional intensity. Harsh conclusions such as "everything is ruined" or "nothing can be fixed" increase tension and block creative thinking. Replace dramatic statements with neutral observations. Describe the situation in simple terms without exaggeration. This adjustment in language helps maintain emotional stability and keeps attention directed toward solutions. Physical awareness also contributes to mental discipline. Stress often creates tension within the body. Shoulders may tighten, breathing may become shallow, and posture may collapse under pressure. Becoming aware of these signals allows you to correct them intentionally. Straightening posture and breathing deeply can send calming signals to the nervous system. When the body relaxes slightly, the mind often follows. Disciplined thinking also requires patience with uncertainty. Many situations cannot be resolved immediately. Attempting to force quick answers may lead to poor decisions. Accepting that some outcomes require time allows you to gather information and consider options carefully. Patience creates space for thoughtful judgment rather than hurried reactions. During uncertain periods, it is helpful to review personal values. Values provide stable guidance when external conditions feel unstable. When the mind returns to principles such as honesty, responsibility, and fairness, decisions become easier to evaluate. Even when outcomes remain uncertain, acting in alignment with these principles preserves integrity and self-respect. Seeking accurate information is another valuable practice. Stress often spreads when rumors or assumptions replace verified knowledge. Take time to gather reliable details before forming conclusions. Clarifying information reduces confusion and reveals options that may not have been visible earlier. A well-informed mind is less vulnerable to unnecessary fear. Support from trusted individuals can also strengthen disciplined thinking. Discussing a difficult situation with someone who approaches problems calmly can bring valuable perspective. Another person may notice factors that your mind overlooked during moments of tension. Constructive conversation often leads to clearer understanding and better planning. Reflection on past challenges can also build confidence during uncertain times. Most people have already faced difficult situations that once seemed overwhelming. Remembering how those challenges were eventually managed reminds the mind that progress is possible. Experience becomes a source of reassurance and wisdom. Another powerful technique involves focusing on immediate action rather than distant outcomes. When the future feels uncertain, the mind may attempt to predict every possible result. This effort often increases anxiety because many of those possibilities are outside personal control. Instead, direct attention toward the next responsible step that can be taken today. Completing that step moves the situation forward and gradually reduces uncertainty. Self-discipline also requires monitoring emotional reactions without suppressing them completely. Emotions provide information about what matters to you. However, they should not dictate behavior without examination. When a strong feeling appears, acknowledge it and allow it to pass through awareness without letting it control your actions. This balanced approach respects emotional signals while maintaining rational judgment. Regular mental preparation strengthens resilience before stress appears. Daily practices such as reflection learning and focused work train the mind to remain steady under pressure. A disciplined routine builds familiarity with structured thinking. When unexpected challenges arise, the mind already knows how to return to calm analysis. Rest and recovery also play an essential role. Prolonged stress without rest weakens concentration and judgment. Ensuring adequate sleep and moments of relaxation restores mental energy. A rested mind processes information more accurately and maintains emotional balance more easily. As disciplined thinking becomes habitual, the way you experience uncertainty begins to change. Situations that once created panic may still require effort, but they no longer control your emotions completely. The mind learns to pause, observe, analyze, and respond with intention. This approach does not promise perfect outcomes. Life will continue to present situations beyond personal control. However, disciplined thinking ensures that your response remains guided by reason and integrity rather than fear. Each time you practice calm analysis during stress, you strengthen this ability. Small moments of self-control accumulate into lasting mental resilience. The mind gradually learns that pressure is not an enemy, but a signal that thoughtful attention is required. Over time, this discipline becomes part of your character. Others may notice the steadiness with which you approach difficulty. Your decisions become respected because they arise from careful thought rather than emotional reaction. Practicing disciplined thinking during stress and uncertainty is a powerful form of self-mastery. It transforms moments of chaos into opportunities for clarity and responsible action. With patience, consistent practice, and commitment to calm reasoning, the mind becomes capable of navigating even the most challenging circumstances with dignity and strength. Chapter 80. Use intentional thoughts to guide consistent daily action. Every meaningful result in life is built through repeated action. Ideas alone do not create progress. Motivation alone does not sustain effort. What truly moves life forward is the ability to act with consistency day after day. The bridge between intention and action is thought. Thoughts guide decisions, and decisions determine behavior. When thoughts are careless or scattered, actions become inconsistent. When thoughts are deliberate and purposeful, daily behavior begins to follow a clear direction. Learning to use intentional thoughts to guide consistent action is therefore one of the most powerful disciplines a person can develop. Many people wake each day without clearly deciding how they will think about their responsibilities. As a result, the mind reacts to whatever appears first. Messages, distractions, worries, and random impulses begin shaping the day. Hours pass in activity, yet little meaningful progress occurs. Intentional thinking prevents this pattern by placing direction at the beginning of the day rather than leaving it to chance. An intentional thought is a conscious mental instruction. It is not a wish, and it is not vague encouragement. It is a clear statement that directs behavior toward a chosen objective. When the mind repeats these instructions with clarity, the body begins to follow them through action. For example, instead of starting the day with the uncertain thought that work must somehow be completed, an intentional statement might focus on finishing a specific task within a defined period. This clarity reduces confusion and helps the mind concentrate on useful effort. Creating intentional thoughts requires a brief moment of reflection before the day begins. Sit quietly and consider what actions will move your life forward today. Identify the responsibilities that truly matter rather than those that merely appear urgent. Once these priorities are clear, form simple mental instructions that guide your behavior toward them. These instructions should focus on effort and discipline rather than distant rewards. Repeating these instructions strengthens their influence. The mind often drifts during the day, especially when distractions appear. Returning attention to the chosen thoughts restores focus. Each time you repeat a purposeful instruction, you reinforce the connection between thinking and action. Over time, this repetition forms a mental pathway that makes disciplined behavior more natural. Intentional thinking also helps overcome hesitation. Many tasks appear difficult when viewed from a distance. The mind may search for excuses to delay action or shift attention toward easier activities. A clear instruction interrupts this tendency. When the mind receives a direct command to begin a task, hesitation loses its power. Action begins not because motivation suddenly appears, but because the mind has decided what must be done. Another important aspect of intentional thinking is linking thoughts directly to behavior. Abstract ideas rarely produce change unless they are connected to specific actions. When forming an intentional thought, immediately identify the physical step that follows it. For example, if the instruction involves learning something new, decide exactly when and where the study will take place. This connection transforms the thought into a practical plan. Consistency grows from repetition of simple actions. Large efforts performed occasionally cannot replace small efforts practiced daily. Intentional thoughts remind the mind that progress comes through steady discipline rather than sudden bursts of activity. By focusing attention on the next manageable step, the mind avoids feeling overwhelmed and continues moving forward. It is also helpful to examine the thoughts that appear when effort becomes uncomfortable. Fatigue, boredom, or frustration often produce internal messages suggesting that stopping would be easier. These thoughts are natural responses to challenge, but they should not determine behavior. Replace them with deliberate reminders of your commitment. A calm statement about continuing the task for a few more minutes can restore momentum and strengthen resilience. Recording completed actions at the end of the day reinforces intentional thinking. A short review allows you to observe how your thoughts influenced behavior. Notice the moments when clear instructions helped you stay focused, and the moments when attention drifted away from your priorities. This reflection strengthens awareness and prepares the mind for greater discipline tomorrow. Environment also plays an important role in maintaining consistent action. Surroundings filled with distraction weaken the effect of intentional thoughts. Creating a space that supports concentration allows your mental instructions to guide behavior more effectively. A quiet desk, organized materials, and limited interruptions can transform the quality of daily effort. Intentional thinking does not require perfection. Some days will include unexpected interruptions or temporary loss of focus. What matters is the ability to return quickly to the chosen direction. Each return strengthens mental discipline and prevents discouragement from gaining control. It is also useful to connect intentional thoughts with personal values. When actions reflect values such as responsibility, integrity, or service, effort becomes more meaningful. Instead of working only for external rewards, you act because the behavior represents the person you choose to become. This deeper motivation supports consistency even when progress appears slow. Another practice that strengthens intentional thinking involves visualizing the completion of daily responsibilities before beginning them. Imagine yourself moving through the tasks calmly and with attention. Picture the environment around you and the feeling of steady concentration. This mental rehearsal prepares the mind to perform the same actions in reality. Patience remains essential throughout this process. Consistent action develops gradually through practice. At first, the mind may forget its instructions or wander toward familiar distractions. Each correction provides another opportunity to reinforce discipline. Over time, the mind begins to follow intentional thoughts automatically. The benefits of this practice extend beyond productivity. When thoughts guide daily behavior with clarity, the sense of control over life increases. Decisions feel deliberate rather than accidental. Confidence grows as evidence appears that your actions align with your intentions. Relationships may also improve because disciplined thinking encourages thoughtful responses rather than impulsive reactions. When the mind is trained to pause and choose its direction, communication becomes calmer and more respectful. Intentional thoughts gradually shape identity. A person who consistently directs their thinking toward meaningful action becomes known for reliability and focus. Others notice the stability of this approach and often trust such individuals with greater responsibility. Life rarely transforms through one dramatic event. Instead, it evolves through the quiet accumulation of daily effort. Intentional thinking ensures that this effort moves toward a chosen direction rather than being scattered across distractions. Each morning offers a fresh opportunity to guide your thoughts with purpose. Decide what actions will matter most today. Form clear mental instructions that point toward those actions. Repeat them when attention begins to wander. Follow them with steady effort. With time, this discipline becomes natural. Thoughts begin to align with goals, and actions follow without constant struggle. Progress appears not as sudden success, but as steady movement toward improvement. A life guided by intentional thoughts and consistent action becomes purposeful and stable. Challenges will continue to appear, but the mind will know how to respond with clarity and determination. Through this practice, you gradually shape your days into a path of meaningful progress and lasting growth. Chapter 9. Commit to lifelong mental growth and self-improvement. Human life moves through many stages. Circumstances change, responsibilities grow, and new challenges appear without warning. A person who stops developing mentally eventually feels unprepared for these changes. Knowledge becomes outdated, habits become rigid, and the mind begins to resist new ideas. In contrast, a person who commits to lifelong mental growth remains adaptable and capable of learning in every stage of life. This commitment transforms improvement from a temporary effort into a lasting way of living. Lifelong growth begins with the understanding that the mind is never finished developing. Many people believe that learning belongs only to early years of education. After leaving formal schooling, they slowly reduce their curiosity and settle into familiar routines. This attitude quietly limits potential. The mind continues to possess the ability to expand understanding long after formal education ends. Recognizing this truth opens the door to continuous improvement. Committing to mental growth requires humility. Humility allows a person to admit that there is always more to learn. Without humility, the mind becomes defensive and refuses to examine its own limitations. A humble attitude does not weaken confidence. Instead, it strengthens wisdom because it keeps the mind open to knowledge from many sources. Every experience becomes an opportunity to gain insight. One practical way to maintain mental development is through daily study. Study does not require long hours or complex academic systems. It simply means dedicating regular time to learning something that expands understanding. Reading thoughtful material, exploring new subjects, or practicing analytical thinking keeps the mind active. Over months and years, this steady learning accumulates into valuable knowledge that shapes better decisions. Reflection also supports lifelong improvement. Learning from experience is just as important as learning from books. Each day contains moments that can teach valuable lessons about behavior, judgment, and relationships. Taking a few quiet minutes to review these experiences helps extract wisdom from them. When reflection becomes habitual, the mind gradually becomes more aware of its patterns and capable of refining them. Another important element of mental growth is questioning assumptions. People often form beliefs early in life and continue accepting them without examination. Some of these beliefs may no longer serve their best interests. A curious mind occasionally revisits its assumptions and asks whether they remain accurate. This process keeps thinking flexible and prevents stagnation. Exposure to diverse perspectives also strengthens intellectual development. Conversations with individuals who hold different experiences and viewpoints challenge the mind to consider ideas from new angles. Listening carefully to others without immediate judgment encourages deeper understanding. Even when disagreement remains, the process of thoughtful discussion expands awareness. Writing can also play a powerful role in mental growth. Putting thoughts into written form forces the mind to organize ideas clearly. Confusing concepts often become clearer once they are expressed in words. A journal or notebook can serve as a space to record insights, questions, and reflections. Over time, these written observations reveal patterns in thinking and progress in understanding. Self-improvement also requires the courage to face personal weaknesses. Every person has areas where their habits or thinking patterns limit progress. Ignoring these weaknesses prevents development. Honest self-examination allows the mind to identify behaviors that require change. This awareness creates the opportunity to replace unhelpful patterns with stronger ones. Growth is rarely comfortable. Learning often requires leaving familiar habits and confronting uncertainty. During these moments, patience becomes essential. Improvement happens gradually through practice and adjustment. Accepting this gradual pace prevents frustration and encourages persistence. Mentorship can also accelerate mental development. A mentor provides guidance based on experience and offers perspective during difficult decisions. Listening to someone who has faced similar challenges can shorten the path to understanding. Mentorship does not remove responsibility for personal effort, but it can provide valuable direction. Teaching others is another powerful method of strengthening knowledge. Explaining an idea forces the mind to understand it deeply. When you share what you have learned with others, you clarify your own thinking and discover areas that require further study. This exchange of knowledge benefits both the teacher and the learner. Mental growth is closely connected to discipline. Without consistent effort, curiosity alone cannot produce lasting improvement. Setting aside regular time for study, reflection, and thoughtful discussion ensures that learning continues even during busy periods of life. Discipline transforms improvement from an occasional activity into a stable routine. Emotional maturity also develops through lifelong learning. As the mind gains greater awareness, it becomes better equipped to manage reactions and maintain balance during challenging moments. Experience combined with reflection gradually refines judgment and strengthens character. Another important aspect of growth involves adapting to change. The world evolves continuously through new technology, ideas, and cultural shifts. A person committed to learning remains prepared to understand these developments rather than resisting them out of fear. Adaptability ensures that knowledge remains relevant and useful. Maintaining curiosity keeps the mind vibrant. Curiosity encourages exploration and prevents boredom from dominating daily life. Asking thoughtful questions about how things work or why certain events occur stimulates intellectual activity. Even simple observations can lead to valuable discoveries when approached with genuine interest. Lifelong improvement also benefits personal relationships. A mind dedicated to growth becomes more patient and understanding toward others. Learning about communication psychology and human behavior enhances empathy and cooperation. Relationships strengthened by understanding often become sources of mutual support and wisdom. Progress should also be measured periodically. Reviewing what has been learned over months or years reveals how much the mind has expanded. This reflection provides encouragement to continue developing and highlights areas that deserve further attention. It is important to remember that improvement does not mean chasing perfection. Perfection is unrealistic and often discouraging. The true aim of lifelong growth is gradual advancement in knowledge, character, and skill. Each small step adds to the foundation of a stronger and wiser mind. A person who commits to this path eventually notices a profound change. Challenges that once seemed confusing become opportunities for learning. Mistakes transform into lessons that guide future actions. Curiosity replaces complacency and effort becomes a natural part of daily life. Through continuous learning, the mind remains active, engaged, and prepared for new possibilities. This commitment does not depend on age, occupation, or circumstance. Anyone willing to observe, think, and learn can participate in the process of self-improvement. Choose to approach life as an ongoing classroom. Read thoughtfully, listen carefully, reflect honestly, and remain open to new understanding. Each day offers another chance to strengthen the mind and refine character. When this commitment becomes part of your identity, the journey of improvement never truly ends. Instead, it evolves into a rewarding process that enriches every stage of life. Through dedication to lifelong mental growth, you build a foundation of wisdom, resilience, and understanding that supports meaningful progress for years to come. Chapter 10. Create a powerful mindset that turns thoughts into results. The mind is the most powerful tool you possess because every action begins as a thought. Thoughts create the framework for decisions, habits, and ultimately the results you experience in life. Yet most people allow their thinking to wander without direction, reacting to circumstances instead of shaping them. A powerful mindset does not emerge by chance. It is intentionally built through deliberate focus, disciplined thought, and repeated application. When the mind is trained in this way, ideas transform into tangible outcomes and potential becomes reality. The foundation of a results-oriented mindset is clarity. Without clarity, thoughts scatter, energy dissipates, and effort fails to produce meaningful results. Clarity begins with understanding precisely what you want to achieve. This requires specific goals and a clear sense of priority. A general desire to succeed is insufficient. You must define the target so that your thoughts consistently align with actions that advance it. Once clarity is established, every decision can be measured against whether it moves you closer to your objective. Next comes consistency. Thoughts alone are not enough. They must be reinforced through repeated attention and daily action. A powerful mindset strengthens when ideas are revisited regularly, analyzed critically, and translated into deliberate steps. Each consistent effort, no matter how small, compounds over time. Daily repetition builds mental pathways that make focus and persistence automatic. This consistency separates those who merely dream from those who achieve measurable results. Discipline is equally essential. Distraction and impulse are constant threats to productive thinking. The mind naturally drifts toward comfort, fear, or novelty, often pulling attention away from meaningful effort. Discipline is the practice of returning focus to purposeful thought and action. It is cultivated through small, repeated decisions to stay aligned with objectives rather than seeking immediate satisfaction. Over time, disciplined thought becomes a habit, ensuring that your mind serves your goals rather than being hijacked by temporary impulses. Control over internal dialogue is another cornerstone of a powerful mindset. Self-limiting beliefs and negative interpretations of events weaken the ability to act decisively. To cultivate strength, every thought that arises must be examined critically. Identify whether it supports progress or undermines effort. Replace doubt, fear, and indecision with constructive alternatives. For example, instead of thinking that a challenge is impossible, consciously focus on solutions, resources, and steps that can move you forward. Over time, positive and realistic internal dialogue becomes the default, guiding consistent action. Visualization is a practical tool for turning thoughts into results. The mind responds to clear mental images as if they were real. By repeatedly imagining specific actions and outcomes, you prepare your brain to recognize the behaviors and decisions necessary to achieve them. Visualization aligns mental focus with practical steps, ensuring that the brain recognizes opportunities and solutions more readily when they appear in reality. Taking responsibility for all outcomes reinforces mental power. External circumstances, luck, or other people's actions influence life, but results ultimately emerge from your decisions and behaviors. A mindset that blames outside factors relinquishes control and produces stagnation. Taking ownership shifts energy toward action. It transforms challenges into opportunities to apply skill, discipline, and focus. Responsibility creates accountability, and accountability fuels consistent effort. The ability to learn from feedback strengthens the connection between thought and result. Experiences, successes, and failures all provide data about what works and what does not. Analyze outcomes without judgment or defensiveness. Extract the lesson, adjust your approach, and continue. A powerful mindset treats mistakes as information rather than personal flaws. This approach maintains momentum and prevents fear from blocking decisive action. Focus on opportunity rather than limitation ensures that the mind remains oriented toward growth. Challenges are inevitable, yet a results-driven mindset identifies actionable options instead of dwelling on obstacles. This does not ignore reality. It simply trains the mind to prioritize constructive solutions over negative rumination. By consistently seeking opportunities within difficulties, mental energy is used productively, leading to tangible results. Mental resilience is required for sustaining a results-oriented mindset. Not every thought produces immediate success, and not every effort yields instant outcomes. Resilience allows you to maintain focus and effort despite temporary setbacks. It develops through repeated exposure to challenges with disciplined thought and deliberate recovery. Each challenge strengthens the capacity to persevere, deepening the mind's ability to convert thought into achievement. Intentional action connects thinking to the world. Ideas without execution remain abstract and powerless. After clarity, discipline, and focus are established, every thought must prompt a corresponding behavior. Break larger objectives into practical steps and execute them methodically. Daily action aligned with thoughtful intention forms a bridge between the internal mental landscape and external reality, ensuring that results are produced predictably rather than by chance. Cultivating patience is essential. Transformation and meaningful results rarely appear instantly. The mind may become frustrated when effort does not immediately match expectation. Patience allows consistent application of skill and thought, reinforcing the principle that results accumulate over time. Each deliberate action compounds, building toward larger outcomes that once seemed unattainable. Reflection strengthens mental performance. Regular review of actions and results provides feedback for refinement. Examine which thoughts produced effective outcomes and which failed to lead to progress. This self-assessment increases precision in thinking, helping the mind focus on strategies that reliably generate results. Reflection transforms experience into a practical tool for continuous improvement. The environment supports or undermines a powerful mindset. Surround yourself with people, information, and settings that encourage productive thinking and responsible action. Minimize exposure to negativity, distraction, and influences that dilute focus. A supportive environment reduces mental resistance and reinforces habits that turn thought into outcome. Finally, gratitude and acknowledgement amplify the power of achievement. Recognize progress, even small steps, and appreciate the ability to direct thought and effort. This awareness reinforces motivation and mental clarity, creating a positive feedback loop that enhances focus and effectiveness. By practicing clarity, consistency, discipline, ownership, focus on opportunity, resilience, intentional action, reflection, and environmental management, the mind becomes a tool capable of transforming ideas into tangible results. Each thought, when guided carefully and applied consistently, creates a chain of action that shapes life with intention. A powerful mindset does not emerge spontaneously. It is cultivated through deliberate effort and conscious choice. Over time, this mindset aligns every thought, every decision, and every action toward meaningful and measurable results, demonstrating that human potential is realized through disciplined mental mastery.